Welcome to Lesson 9, Editing for Pronoun Agreement. Let's start off with defining a pronoun. A pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun, a group of words acting as a noun, or another pronoun, such as I, you, he, them, her, theirs, ours, etc. Those are all examples of pronouns. In this example sentence, Little Bo Peep has lost her sheep and she doesn't know where to find them. Leave them alone and they'll come home wagging their tails behind them. All of the bold words are pronouns. Her, she, them, they'll, their, them. Those are all pronouns. They are taking the place of the nouns Little Bo Peep and the nouns sheep. When considering pronoun agreement, you have to understand the role of an antecedent. An antecedent is a word that comes before the pronoun. Hint, the word part ante means before. Example sentence, after the tribe lost its land, living became even more difficult. Here, the pronoun is its and the antecedent is tribe. That is what the word its is replacing in the sentence. However, it's not always the case that the pronoun precedes or comes after the antecedent. There are some cases where the pronoun comes before the antecedent. In this example sentence, although he was strong, Alvin still became sick. Here, he is the pronoun and Alvin is the antecedent. He is referring to Alvin. Pronouns must agree with their antecedents in number, person, and gender. So these are the three ways, essentially, that pronouns agree. Number as in singular or plural, person as in first, second, or third viewpoint, and gender as in male, female, or neutral. Let's talk about pronoun agreement in number. Be sure singular pronouns are matched with singular antecedents and plural pronouns are matched with plural antecedents. This is fairly simple except when working with indefinite pronouns, which we will discuss later. When it comes to pronoun agreement in person, understand that logical shifts in a sentence from one viewpoint to another can be confusing to readers. For example, the following sentence begins in third person and shifts to second person. When people are interviewing for jobs, you should speak slowly and clearly. That is a little bit confusing, right? The more appropriate way would be when people are interviewing for jobs, they should speak slowly and clearly. Lastly, there is pronoun agreement in relation to gender. It's simple to catch errors in which a man is referred to as she or a woman is referred to as he, but those mistakes rarely happen. Using all masculine or all feminine pronouns when referring to antecedents such as worker or nurse, however, can be a dilemma, which we will tackle in this lesson as well. Pronoun agreement problem number 1 has to do with indefinite pronouns. Sometimes antecedents may be pronouns, but the pronouns and antecedent pronouns must still agree. Agreement can be tricky when the antecedent is an indefinite pronoun because most indefinite pronouns are singular, even though they appear to be plural. Let's take a look at what some of those indefinite pronouns that are singular may look like. So here's a list. Another, anybody, anyone, anything, each, either, everybody, everyone, everything, much, neither, nobody, no one, nothing, one, somebody, someone, something. Those are all singular indefinite pronouns. However, sometimes you have to be careful when pairing them because they can be paired. They may seem like they are plural. They may sound like they're plural in writing. Please take note, all, any, most, none, and some can be singular or plural depending on the phrase that follows them. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. It really depends on the phrase that they're paired with. Something else to keep in mind as you work with indefinite pronouns is that the way you speak and write usually is not the same because speaking has less structure than writing. Although a sentence such as everyone says they are smart might sound okay if you and your friends are talking, it is grammatically incorrect regarding its pronoun agreement. The indefinite pronoun everyone is singular. The pronoun they, however, is plural. But what does they refer to? Yes, it refers to everyone. So there's not a pronoun antecedent agreement. To fix this sentence, you can do one of two things. You can make the antecedent plural and verb plural to match the pronoun, where the sentence becomes people say they are smart, or you can make the pronoun and verb singular to match the antecedent, where the sentence becomes everyone says he or she is smart. However, using he and she too much can become awkward in writing. While most indefinite pronouns are singular, don't forget the others. Example, both. of the boys fixed his own dinner. The antecedent in both is plural and the pronoun his is singular, so there is no agreement. One way to fix this sentence would be to make the antecedent singular. Each of the boys fixed his own dinner. Sometimes many words, phrases, and/or clauses separate the antecedent and pronoun, but no matter how long the sentence is, the antecedent and pronoun must still agree. In this example, each of the girls, no matter whether short or tall, blonde or brunette, fair or dark, hopes to have her name called as a finalist in the pageant. Notice that there's a long piece of text here that break up the antecedent and the pronoun, but you still have to make sure that they match each and her. All right, the antecedent is singular, is the singular indefinite pronoun each, which agrees with the singular pronoun her. To avoid getting frustrated and becoming lost in all of the words, systematically find a pronoun and ask yourself if it agrees in number, gender, and person with the word to which it refers. If it does, you have pronoun antecedent agreement. If not, you'll need to change something about the sentence to make it correct. Let's practice. Here we have a sentence. Did either of the cars win blank race? What do you think the answer is? Is it there or is it its? Did either of the cars win their race? Did either of the cars win its race? Let's take a look. Here, the answer is its. Did either of the cars win its race? Even though cars is plural, either makes it singular. So we have the singular here, its, instead of their. Use plural pronouns with most compound sentences. So now we're getting into agreement problem number 2, which is compound antecedents. Use plural pronouns with most compound antecedents joined by and. Example, Lucia waited for Dad and his students to empty their pockets. So here we have a compound antecedent, Dad and his students to empty their pockets. Okay. It's not just Dad emptying his pockets. Special situations. Use a singular pronoun if both parts of the compound antecedent refer to the same person or thing, or when the word each or every precedes the compound antecedent. For example, every song and dance was memorable because of its uniqueness. The word every precedes song and dance, so the singular pronoun its is correct. With compound antecedents joined by or nor, use pronouns that agree with the nearest antecedent. In this case, if one antecedent is singular and the other is plural, it is best to put the plural antecedent closer to the pronoun to avoid awkward sounding sentences. Example, neither Jerry nor his classmates could finish their tests in time. Right? The closest is classmates, which is plural, not Jerry, which is singular. So we use here the plural pronoun their. Let's practice. We were afraid to eat each sandwich and pie because of blank unusual ingredients. So is the answer going to be there or its? Let's take a look. We were afraid to eat each sandwich and pie because of its unusual ingredients. Here we have singular each. Its is also singular. Talking about agreement problem number 3 brings into question collective nouns. Collective nouns refer to groups of people or things regarded as single entities. So the pronouns used for collective nouns should also be singular. Ask yourself if the group is acting as together as a whole. Example, the school orchestra is known for its enthusiasm. While the orchestra is made up of lots of people, it is acting as one whole group. Therefore, you use its as the singular pronoun. Occasionally, however, a collective noun refers to the group as individual members, so it needs a plural pronoun. Ask yourself if the unit of members are acting individually. Example, the Senate proudly represented their constituents. So in this case, Senate is acting as individual members. It's being referenced as individual members. And you use their, which is the plural pronoun. Sometimes a singular or plural verb will give you a clue as to whether the collective noun is singular or plural. In the previous sentence, the school orchestra is known for its enthusiasm. The word is takes the singular form, which is a clue that orchestra is a singular antecedent and requires a singular pronoun. Let's practice again. The company has 2 openings in the budget office, but blank will not advertise for help yet. We have they and it. let's think about what's the antecedent. The antecedent is company, which is singular. The company has 2 openings in the budget office, but it will not advertise for help yet. All right, agreement problem number 4 has to do with gender. Most antecedents are obviously masculine, feminine, or neutral, so there is no problem matching them with the appropriate gender-specific pronouns. The need for pronoun antecedent agreement can, however, create problems with some pronoun gender designation. In the past, it was acceptable to use a masculine pronoun to refer to unspecified or mixed genders. For example, each doctor needs to renew his license yearly, or the worker ate his lunch at the factory. However, many people today say it is gender biased to use all masculine or all feminine pronouns when the gender is unknown. So beware of implied gender bias and do your best to remove it from your writing. If an antecedent is not gender specific, use one of the following strategies to maintain pronoun antecedent agreement, but rid your paper of any hint of gender bias. The first strategy is to revise the sentence to avoid the use of the pronoun altogether. For example, yearly license renewal is required of each doctor, instead of each doctor is required to renew his or her license yearly. Right? When you remove the pronoun altogether, you don't have a problem with agreement based on gender. Strategy number 2, make the antecedent plural so you can use a plural pronoun. Doctors need to renew their license yearly. So that way that includes both male and female doctors. Strategy number 3, use he or she, his or her, him or his or hers in place of a gender-specific pronoun. Each doctor needs to renew his or her license yearly. While this strategy has its place, using it too often can make writing seem wordy, dry, and artificial. Use it sparingly. And in case you're wondering if alternatives like s/he to signify both he and she works, that's also clumsier than just using his or her. The use of singular indefinite pronouns often calls for the his or her strategy, so be careful. Let's practice. The company has 2 openings in the budget office, but blank will not advertise for help yet. So we have the antecedent as company. Let's see what the pronoun is. It's going to be it, because company is singular. All right, now we are on to the exit ticket for pronoun agreement. There are 6 different sentences where you are going to determine the appropriate pronoun to insert into the sentence. So there's 2 on this slide, 2 on the next slide, and 2 on the 3rd slide, and the last slide shows the answers so that you can check your work. And that is lesson number 9, editing for pronoun agreement.